Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well? Good. Thank you. So I'm Claudio Umbrella. I come from the Neuchâtel office in Switzerland. It's a beautiful place where our offices happen to be. And today I would like to talk about the JIRA performance after 300,000 issues. It's good that we worked a lot in the last month and a half because we used to announce this presentation as 250,000 issues. So it's even better for us. So in the agenda, I would like to talk about each other a little bit. Then what about JIRA at Autodesk? And the status and the audit we did to really come with good performance. What changes we did, the results we got. And then talk about process, the rule of the piece, I call that. And then conclusions. And if you like to have questions for me, no problem, you can just ask about that. So I would like you to raise up your hand if you know Autodesk, please. Not that many. So what about if I ask you, do you know AutoCAD? Raise up your hand. Yes, almost everyone knows AutoCAD. Yes, our company is well known by the product more than the name. So in a nutshell, our company was founded 30 years ago. We have 6,800 employees approximately. And we have a product portfolio of 90 products. We develop in 18 different languages. This is localization. And thanks to our products, there have been 16 Academy Awards. I can name one that talks for everyone. It's the Avatar film. Was done with our products. Titanic, Forrest Gump, The Lord of the Rings, and many others. In 30 years, we got 10 million professional users. But interesting, thanks to these mobile devices like iPhone and iPads, we got 7 million in only 2 years. These are figures from December, so I think we even just broke the 10 million barrier, very sure. Our revenue is in the 2.2 billion for this fiscal year. And we work in different markets, architecture, engineering, mechanical, computer graphics, and animations. If you have used a PlayStation, it has been done with our products, just to give another idea. So, what about you? I talk a lot already, so who of you have JIRA? I believe everyone here, because if you came on this presentation. So how many users do you have? Between 0 to 1,000, please raise up your hand. Okay. What about up to 2,000? Okay, less hands. What about 3,000 users? Good. 5,000? Congratulations. More than that? Good. You are my friends. Excellent. How many issues do you have right now in JIRA? Up to 100,000, please. Raise up your hand. Good. Between 100 and 200,000. Good. Between 2 to 300,000. Okay. About 300,000? Oh, we can make a company already here. Excellent. So who does use Windows today as the server for JIRA? Okay. What about Linux? Those are my friends. Good. You will see why after. Okay. So let's talk about JIRA at Autodesk very quickly. For me, 2005 was, I call that the year we made contact. Basically, I was working on a big enterprise software, and I had a problem with my JBoss application server. I went to the JBoss site, and I found that little thing called JIRA that was capable of finding my issue very quickly and efficiently. By the year 2008, the localization services team, I was working for that team at the time, we migrated from nodes to JIRA. It was like a 50,000 issues migration from one system to the other one, including UTF-8 defects in Japanese, Korean, simplified Chinese, etc. By 2009, we had some projects in the global engineering, those guys who write the code in English and the base product, that they started adopting JIRA. And by 2012, we reached the 250,000 issues in February, and the 300,000 just a little bit less than a month ago. In a nutshell, Right now, we are running 310,000 because this presentation was submitted 10 days ago to Atlassian, so I didn't change that. We have 3,200 active users, 384 plus, maybe now 400 at the time I'm talking, projects in the system. And one curious number is our average number of sessions on the server range from 16 to 1,800 all day long, okay? Why that? Because as you can see here in the infrastructure slide, we have people working from Asia Pacific, from Europe, and from the Americas. Basically, I own only 28 hours per week to do maintenance. The rest of the week, I'm fully booked because when Singapore goes home, Europe is working. When Europe goes home, America is working. And when America goes home, Singapore is back online, or China, or Australia. So all these users connect via our internal network through a firewall we have in the data center because we are co-located in another facility in Santa Clara, California. And we have our JIRA production and our JIRA staging environment. All the system is connected to enterprise storage from NetApp. And we have let's say a professional setup, a high-end setup for the system. So what happened by mid-2011? Last year was not easy for my team. We were running JIRA 4.01 on Windows 2008, and we were having downtimes every 6 to 15 days. It was just very bad. My BlackBerry used to ring at any time, day and night, with an escalation from a senior manager or director of engineering. The other problem we got is we couldn't assign more than 1,248 megabytes to the virtual machine in Java. Big limitation for a big instance as we have. And we were running on an ESX farm. So we have a lot of virtualization at Autodesk. Now, 90% of the clients were running on MSIE. And you will see that later, what impact it has on performance. So to really get hold of this problem and find out what the root cause was, we defined the following audit plan. So we audit the server, the client, the application, the network, and our own processes. You will see later that the processes is very, very important in this case. So what did we change? First of all, for the server, we migrated to Linux on 64-bit with 32 gigabytes of RAM. And we will see later in the next 3 slides why we made that decision. Very important also. We kept using a virtual server on our ESX farm, but we changed the system into the high priority pool. It was in the normal priority. And as we changed that, we already saw a boost of performance. Absolutely. If you run on ESX, keep that as a takeaway for today. We assigned 6 cores, not a lot, but for a virtual machine, it's average is 2 CPUs in our company. And we are actually running version 4.4.4, and we are testing 5.1. Now, I said before I was going to explain in the next 3 slides why we went to Linux. So look at this graph. There are a number of benchmarks from the foronix.com website which show you the Java performance on the different platforms. In this case, less is better. So the lower the bar is, the better performance you have. And you can see Windows is the right sidebar. Doesn't look very good against Ubuntu with the Java from some microsystems. Next slide, more is better. In this case, another benchmark they run is the SCI mark. And the Ubuntu was, again, running the best. Look, there is almost 25% gain from the Windows to Linux. And perhaps the more evident is this one, when the Monte Carlo performance algorithm, it's a It's a sophisticated algorithm that has been used since the 1940s for code comparison. And look how bad look Windows on Ubuntu. I need to be fair, I didn't put other 2 slides where Windows takes over Ubuntu because they were for graphics performance to do rendering, and as JIRA doesn't do any graphic rendering like AutoCAD does, it was irrelevant. But at some point also Windows was better perhaps by graphic card or the driver of the graphic card. So let's see what we did on the client side. The first thing we did was to advise users to use Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. I know there are still Windows lovers in the world, okay? But you need to make a turn at some point. I love this platform here, Mac. So as you know, MSIE, as of today, still with version 9, has the slowest JavaScript engine in the planet, okay? And that is not something to forget because JIRA has a lot of JavaScript to create the user interface, a lot of cascading style sheets, and they are essential at the time you need to get performance, because if those objects render slow, your experience is poor. So we also ask users to clear the browser cache frequently. We found that some users didn't clear the cache and have cache of 1 gigabyte, even more, and they became really huge in looking files in the file system. As you know, Windows, when it needs to read a directory, is unfortunately less efficient than an HPFS from Apple or a Linux file system. So have that under control, please. And also exclude the antivirus on all the browser cache folders. You need to do that because you will slow down absolutely everything. So when we ask users to change, they say, well, we don't want to change. And I say, okay, will this graph convince you? And yes, it did convince people, because just the upper left shows that JavaScript is 10 times slower than Chrome, for example, on MSIE. Give a look at the cascading style sheet. It's here in the upper right. It's almost 8 times slower. Okay, and these are 2 things where you need to really get under control on your JIRA install. The document object model selection speed, also that one is really bad in MSIE. As you can see, MSIE couldn't win any of these tests. And the best in class is Chrome, following by Firefox and Safari. So this is something you will need to convince your users. I am completely sure it's not an easy task, but use this graph for my presentation to make them aware that if they do a little compromise in their client experience, they will have a better JIRA. Now, the next thing we did was an application change in the way we assigned RAM. We just gave 12 gigabytes of RAM to JIRA, to the Java virtual machine. As you can see here, we are using a good part of it, like 77% at all times. The other change that many people don't consider is the GZIP compression. GZIP is something really good. You can compress every page on the server, send it to the browser decompress. The taxing on the CPU is almost 0. You can compress a page in less than a second, and you will get a lot of traffic reduction on anything you do in your JIRA. For those who use Greenhopper, we are big Greenhopper users in Autodesk. You need to increase your Greenhopper issues cache. As you can see here, I put 200,000 issues cache limit, and we are constantly using between 41 to 50%. And the default value is 20,000. So that means, in our case, you have 4 times more need to read data this is all input-output all the time. This stays on memory and really helps. The other decision we took, which is not a decision that normally we would have taken at Autodesk, is to keep the MySQL local to JIRA. Usually we have dedicated database servers. We run on mid-range Sun microsystems with even 256 and more gigabytes of RAM, 16 CPUs, multiple cores, Oracle 11. So we have, pretty nice database servers. But we decided to reduce the database connectivity to stay more into an inter-process communication, an IPC, instead of doing a TCP call outside of the network. And of course, the other thing we did on the application side is don't use SSL. You will understand now with the network why that is, I would say, not good. If you need SSL because you have external facing customers and your JIRA is outside of the firewall, yes, have SSL. But if you use it internally, then just avoid that as much as you can, or as much as your security officer in the company allows you to do that. As you can see, our URL is http://jira.autodesk.com, and we have everything in SSL. Then we give a look at the network. Network also plays a very important role when you have people around the world and your server is in California. So you need to think about what is the user experience for Europe and Asia. So we configure the Silver Peak 1 acceleration. Does anyone use 1 acceleration in this room? Okay, good. Do you use Riverbed or Silver Peak? Riverbed? Silver Peak? Okay, good. So configure your Silver Peak so your JIRA goes into the acceleration. You will see much, much better results in accessing the site. If you don't have network acceleration and you have a Packeteer, then create a policy with level 5 to give the maximum priority on the network on everything you do. So let's see the results. What happens after all those changes? So this is probably the best slide where I can show the CPU. The midline is the 50% CPU usage. And as you can see, except on the very far on the left, our CPU never goes beyond 25% at all times. So we are using those 6 cores all the time, but we are getting really, really good results. We configure, as you can see on the left graphic here, the screenshot, the high priority pool in the ESX farm. We don't have limitations in that pool, so I don't have reservations, so I can give the machine freedom to grab as many resources as possible. This one shows the kind of CPU we are using and the storage we have assigned. And here you can see is the second largest machine in the virtual pool. Now, we talk about hardware, technology, browsers, client. So what about the process? Well, process most of the time is forgotten. So my best advice for you is keep the rule of the 5 Ps I will give you now. So for us, process is just this: Proficiency, proof production, plugins, Procrastinate, and Proliferate. Let's see what is each one of them, what kind of impact will have. So when I talk about proficiency is always build knowledge about your infrastructure. It's never easy. Talk to your IT department, try to understand how they have configured the storage, the network, your data center, or your server room, just to understand what you can modify to get better performance. Audit your systems. Don't think that your systems will be installed and forgot forever. Survey your users. We send every year a survey to all of our users, try to understand what do they feel about JIRA, the performance, what do they want to change, etc. Observe the new technology trends. These are things that you need to keep in mind all the time. Proof production. I may state something here that is, normal for many people, but many people update JIRA and without asking, themselves if they have or not tested the production data. So always we do testing on production, on a staging environment of our production data. And we always involve the users in the acceptance testing. So we ask them, how do you feel with the system? Can you use it if I launch it now? Do you have any issues? And go live with their consensus. Don't go live only because you really want to just go live. Special chapter for plugins, because many times also people, I will install this plugin, let's see how it works, boom, crash. Or something was wrong, or you find an issue. So I don't upgrade plugins for the press release. All the time we go for, for the testing, and we always try to make good assessment of the situation before we go live. Always have a support contract. Always, when you have a commercial one, never install something that no one will give you support for free or fee-based. Install only the ones you have strictly need. Don't install something in case someone will need it. And update the plugins on staging first and then on production. We do that all the time. Procrastinate. This is something, I anticipated. Do not do your things for the press release. Don't try to become famous. I always try to say, okay, we go live if we know we are going to be a success. If not, I will delay that production go live. And if you do a multiple update, do not do database, operating system, application. You do things one at a time. Let marinate the changes and see what are the results. Avoid changes in important deadlines. For example, you don't do a JIRA upgrade close to a release to manufacturing of your product or your release date or an end of quarter, because maybe the end of quarter you need to do an important press release announcing a new product availability. You never do that. And always exercise a change-free period, okay? For example, in our company, we cannot change any system in production 3 weeks before the end of any quarter, for example, especially if they are financial. Proliferate. Part of the performance is, okay, users, you need to go to this new browser. You need to keep your people updated on what you are doing, why you are doing the changes. Keep the users informed about what are the new comings, the new changes you are upcoming, usage tips, demos, etc., etc. We publish a newsletter every 3 to 6 months, depending on the content we have. And not everyone reads the newsletter, but at least we have done our best to reach our customers. Now, the other thing I wanted to really give you as an advice is to have a request for change process. We track all the changes we do in JIRA. When I say changes, it's not that I will track adding a value to a custom field, but if I update my SQL server, or I patch my server, or I install a plugin, I will track that in my request for change system. So we record the testing results, we document any rollback action in case we have problems, and we have an approval workflow. Everything has to be signed off by myself in the team before going live. We deny implementation in case of doubt. If something is working 3 times yes and 2 times no, we prefer not to go live with that. Do maintenance outside business hours. For us means 5 p.m. Friday we start doing things in California, and we have time until the guys in Shanghai open on Monday morning. And we keep the request for change process outside JIRA for an evident reason. If you have a problem with JIRA, you just need to read that data one day, okay? So just I'm not inventing this. I'm just getting here a screenshot that shows you when we moved to 444. It was almost a critical update because we were having duplicated issues in JIRA in 441. And this is how we track everything, who requests, the server, the area, etc. And then the screen continues. This is the last part. And we track the date and the time. Why you want to have RFC? Because if something goes wrong 2 weeks after, you say, OK, what changes did I do in my system that could have brought the server down or the performance bad? So you can go back and give a look at what you have done in changes, especially when you have teams, geographically distributed, people in the US, in Europe, in Asia Pacific. You never have, all of them together to ask the questions. So this is the way for us to track the information. So I think I can bring some conclusions to you if you allow me. So managing JIRA performance is not all about infrastructure. It's also about how you manage your process. This is very, very important. And for us, if you really want to join me, I have created with the blessings of Atlassian a LinkedIn JIRA performance group. It's a public group. Everyone can go and you can search on LinkedIn, JIRA performance. You can enroll to it, and the idea is that everyone can ask questions. I will try to help, and I'm sure you guys also will have something to say to help on other users, and also as a way of collecting feedback for Atlassian to make a better product. Thank you very much. This is my email. If you need ever to connect to me, no problem. Just I'm available. So thank you very much.